Hey guys, Daily Tech here with another VR setup guide for the PS Move service and Riftcat. Now I'll be doing a couple different things in this video. I'll be setting up room scale and comparing it against standing room only, and also we'll be testing out my creativity in Tilt Brush. Up until now, I've been using a standing room configuration because I really didn't see much of a point to move to room scale. I'd always figured that room scale was just giving you a chaperone box, and it removed the warnings when you started up a game that required room scale. However, I have heard differently from other people saying it gives you a little bit more sense of space, a little bit more immersion. So I figured, what the heck, let's give it a shot and see if I can compare it myself. Now since we'll be setting up room scale for this comparison, I figure I'll kill two birds with one stone and do the comparison video alongside the installation guide. And that being said, I couldn't think of a better game to test this out with than Tilt Brush. Since I'm set up as standing room only right now, let's fire that up, see how it goes in standing only. This is a design I had in mind, and it was something I saw my friends start before. I was amazed at how fast you can create something that actually looks half decent with little to no skill at all. And believe me, I fit into the latter category. This is a bit more of a higher priced game, but if you love designing things and really getting swallowed into a game, this game doesn't get old. As you probably noticed, I'm using my Gear VR with Riftcat, and I'm using the PS Move controllers as my motion controllers. If you want to try Riftcat, I have a link to test that out for free in the description below. Now keep in mind, this is set up as standing room only, and as you can notice, I have the ability to still walk around and move freely. This proves that standing only doesn't mean you need to keep your feet planted at all times. Due to the nature of how the controllers and head marker is tracked, I had always been using the view area for the controllers as the virtual chaperone. My controllers would get extremely shaky when leaving the view of multiple cameras, so when that happens, I knew I went too far. This is really what had always prevented me from slamming into the walls and smashing my desk. Lastly, I'm posting my saves of this drawing if you want to download it and test it out for yourself. Check the description below for those. Feel free to open it up on your side and make your own additions, because I'd love to see what you guys come up with. So let's just kick back and watch as I draw one of my very first paintings using Tilt Brush. Oh, and I apologize for the mouse cursor, but I'm afraid that's going to stay there for this entire portion. So who knew I was an artist? This turned out way better than I could imagine. You really need to see this in VR to fully appreciate it. I'm still learning all the brushes, but the few I tested out worked really well. Who would have thought that blue fire would make great water? Well, let's go check out the room scale setup guide. I'll show you how to get that all up and running with PS Move controllers and a few tricks to make things easier. Then we'll go back to this tilt brush painting and put the last few touches on it and then try moving around for a comparison. First thing to do is stand facing the direction you want to be forward and then recenter Riftcat. Don't worry about the arrow on the screen if it's nowhere close. This room scale setup will fix that. This is important so that the chaperone will match up with your camera setup. Then, just run your controller calibration you see on the screen as you normally would. Now place the headset and controllers on an elevated surface in the middle of your area like you see here, and keep the headset facing forwards, just for good measure. Now, run the room setup wizard and select room scale, and follow the prompts on the screen. Be sure to enter in the correct height at which your headset is sitting off the ground, then calibrate floor. Now this is the part that gets a little bit different. You will want to first check the box that says advanced mode. This is needed since your controller tracking gets pretty shaky along the edges where you want to draw the chaperone. The standard way just won't work very well like this. In the advanced mode, you will just need to pull the trigger once in all 4 corners. Try to push the limits as far as your room will let you. A good tip for this is to hold the controller up high like you see me doing it. This way, you should keep some half-decent tracking as you go. You will notice as well that if the controller isn't being tracked properly, it'll give you an error. Just move the controller back in a little bit until the trigger responds when being pulled. When you pull the trigger, you should feel the feedback in the controller if it's enabled, and it'll leave a small dot on the map. Once your box is drawn, feel free to click on Edit and then tweak the box a little bit so that you get the largest area possible. Also, be sure you don't turn the arrow too much as that may throw things off. And that's it, we're all done. Now let's try walking around our newly set up room and make sure our chaperone lines are where they need to be and we can walk freely around without hitting anything. And yes, the controllers will be a bit buggy along the edges, but this is expected since only one camera will be able to properly track you out there most likely. Alright, now that we have the room scale all set up, the chaperone's everywhere we need it to be, and it all looks good in the SteamVR home screen, let's try Tilt Brush to see how it compares. One really awesome feature that I found in this game is that when you load a saved image, it'll redraw the entire thing right in front of you as you move around. Now this was a pleasant surprise. Watch here as you can see every part is redrawn within seconds. So now that we're back to where we left off, I'll put a few finishing touches along the edges just to see how things work in room scale. The general feeling that I got was that I was able to move around the drawing a bit quicker, and it felt like I was moving faster than it did while in standing room only. Standing only felt like a 1-to-1 movement ratio, whereas I feel like the room scale will adjust the movement speed to suit the size of the room you draw out. Now I don't know if this is really how it works, and maybe it's just a placebo, but I did get that impression. Also, having a chaperone around me really gave me a sense of where I was standing in the room as well. This helped out a lot more than I thought it would. Now I do get myself pinned into a corner a couple times here, and luckily you can move yourself in the room by using the grab buttons, but this would happen in either standing only or room scale just the same. Having that chaperone gave me a lot more confidence as to where I was standing though. Now in this game, it wasn't all that distracting, but I could see it possibly taking away from the immersion in some other games. Again, this is only my assumption, so I may be totally wrong and you may just get used to it after all. At the end of the day, if you have the space to set up room scale, I would highly recommend it. I'm certainly going to keep mine this way from now on. I'm also looking forward to try out a few other games in this configuration to see how well they work too. Well, thanks for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed some of the gameplay of Tilt Brush, and that this helps you gather some courage to try setting up room scale yourself. Don't forget, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and be sure to subscribe for more content like this in the future. We'll see you next time.